In this video, we'll talk about strings in Python. Strings are used to represent text. They can be written by putting text in single or double quotes. So this is a string, is an example of a string, and we can also put that in double quotes, say this is another string, and that works too. Both ways are equally valid. These can be assigned to variables, just like numerical values can. So if I make a variable called aString, I can say that is a string to store. And just like with numerical values, if we want to see what is contained within a variable, we can use the print function to print out a string, and that gives us what we were expecting to see. If we want a string that covers multiple lines, we can surround the whole block with 3 single quotes. That's quote, 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 and then start typing. So this string covers multiple lines. The \n is how Python represents a new line. Strings are made up of a series of characters, where each character can be a letter, a space, or a piece of punctuation. We can pull out individual characters through indexing. Write the name of the string, in this case a string, and then in brackets put the index that you want to pull out. In this case, 0 will pull out the first character in the string. In Python, we always start counting with 0. Let's pull out a few more characters. aString1 is a space, and aString2 is an S. You can see that this is starting to spell out the string that we have stored in a string. If we want to know how long a string is, we can use the len function. That's len, and then in parentheses, the name of the string whose length we want to know. So we can see a string has a length of 17, so there are 17 characters in the string. We know we can get the first character with index 0, and since we know the length is 17, we can get the last character with a string at index 16. This is 16, not 17, because we start counting at 0. Here's a nice trick. If you use a negative number as an index, it'll wrap around backwards from 0. So a string at index -1 gets the same thing as a string of 16. And a string of -2 gives us the previous character before that. We can also use variables as indices. So if we say that I is equal to 2, we can use that as an index to find a string at index I. And this gives us 2, which is the same thing that we found earlier. We can even do math inside the square brackets if we want, as long as the answer is an integer. So if we do a string of I plus 1, that'll give us the character following the S. We can use slicing to pull out a range of characters. You create a slice by using 2 numbers separated by a colon. So a string, and then the first number is where we start, and then the second number is where we end. This pulls out indices 0 through 7, excluding 8. If you use a colon, but leave out one of the numbers on either side, it'll go to the end of the string. So a string colon 8, leaving out the 0, implicitly puts a 0 there, so it knows to start at 0 anyway. And we can do this in the other direction too. A string starting at 2, with just a colon, will go until the far end of the string. If you use 2 colons, you can adjust the step size. So if you make a laughing variable for ha 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 ha, we can do laugh of colon 2. This means that we start at the very beginning, go to the very end, and we skip every other character. And this gives us only the H's. If we want the A's instead, we just have to start at a different place. So laugh starting at 1, but still going to the far end, and skipping 1 each step will give us all the A's. We can even use this to reverse strings. If we start at the end, -1, go all the way to the beginning, and step backwards, that'll reverse the string. It's important to remember that strings are immutable. You can't change them. If we try to change laugh at index 2 to the letter Q, Python will complain because it says the string object does not support item assignment. But you can add strings together to make new strings. We can combine our original A string and add a string that we'll put right here, and add the laugh variable. And this puts them all together into one string. If you combine this with slicing, you can do some powerful string manipulation. We can take the first 4 characters of laugh with :4 and say that we're going to reverse it, and then we can print out what it is reversed. To reverse the first 4 characters alone, we start at index 3 and go backwards from there. So haha reversed is ah. Strings are great for conveying readable information to someone using your program. I hope you'll find them useful.